With everything that's happening around the world today, I feel like I have more time on my hands. Now, as a YouTuber, I work from home anyways, so it's kind of the same, but I feel like I have more time. So I decided to learn Zbrush instead of, shaving my beard. So 5 days ago, I did exactly that. I downloaded Zbrush and learned how to sculpt in Zbrush, and I learned quite fast. And I want to talk about why I learned fast, give you tips, advice, and everything on the subject. I'll also show you every sculpt that I sculpted during these past 5 days. And I sculpted a lot. Let's get right to it. Alright, so here's the first sculpt that I did in Zbrush in day 1. Now, this is a sculpt that I did from scratch from a sphere. I did it without reference, that's not 100% accurate. But anyways, I think it took 2 hours. So if I look at the first under history, 52 till 2:55. So yeah, this took me 2 hours, which is longer than what I would take to sculpt in Blender. But again, I'm not used to sculpting in Zbrush yet, so it's to be expected. Now, the way I did this is I first downloaded Zbrush and then learned how to navigate in Zbrush, the basics, and also learned how to use dynamic topology. So it's somewhere around over here. There you go. And just a few brushes. That way I don't overcomplicate things and I focus on a few things and get used to them, so that I can get this kind of result. I then took the first sculpt and turned him into this. I also did some texturing. Now it's just poly paint. I didn't want to get too much into it. I wanted to focus on sculpting, but knowing how to add some basic colors does help when sculpting characters, which is why I learned it. This is my second sculpt in day 1. Now, I think this took under 2 hours, so 5:42 till 7:17. Yep, and I started with a sphere without reference again, and I stopped actually quite early on because I felt like it was a bit too complicated to tackle this kind of sculpt in Zbrush before I get used to the program itself, which is why he is quite unfinished. Here's the third sculpt in day 1. I wasn't really happy with this one. It's a quick sculpt I did of Naruto just to test, sculpting with separate elements, like different spheres, different objects, because the first 2 sculpts I did was with only one sphere and nothing else. So I kind of wanted to test more tools in Zbrush. I also tested a bit more poly painting, as you can see over here. But yeah, anyways, that's it for day 1. I called it off because, I was getting tired, not happy with the results, and I just wanted to go sleep. Also, I stopped getting the undo history over here, even though I didn't change anything in the preferences. So if you use Zbrush and you know the reason, let me know in the comment section below. Here's the first character that I did on the second day in Zbrush. So I did use a reference for this one on Pinterest. I found an art by someone. Sadly, I did not save the image, so I don't know who it is, but if you do know, please let me know in the comment section below. So anyways, I just wanted to warm up for the second day, and I also wanted to test out how to sculpt or do the hair in Zbrush. I didn't spend that much time on it, and I did not figure out the hair at that point. So yeah, let's just move on to the second sculpt on day 2. Here's the second sculpt in day 2. This is a character that I did from a sphere without reference as well. And as you can see, he has a superhero build. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a big fan of superhero stuff. So anyways, I did do a few versions of him that I'm going to show you. Here's the second version of this character. I basically just masked out part of his face and extracted it in Zbrush to get a mask and just did a random design. So anyways, yeah, I was just having fun with this character, which is very important when you're learning something new. Try to do stuff you enjoy so that you get, motivated to do more. Oh, I also turned him into Mega Man. So you can see I'm pretty much just messing around with Zbrush and having fun at this point. Here are some of the sculpts that I did in day 3. There are a lot of interesting things, which is why I'm putting all of them together. And also, I noticed from day 3 that there are a few sculpts that I did not save, including day 1 and 2, because we're missing a skull over here for sure. Now, the first sculpt I did over here was actually done in Blender, and then I imported it to Zbrush and turned it into this. What I was trying to do is see if dynamic topology in Blender is compatible with Dynamesh in Zbrush, which it turned out to be. I also sculpted a skull in Blender, so again, this is done in Blender, and I also did another one in Zbrush to compare the speed of sculpting the same thing. Now, I don't have the version that I did in Zbrush, I did not save that one, but basically, Blender was faster for me because I've been using it for a lot longer than Zbrush, years compared to just a few days over here. But yeah, anyways, it was a fun experiment, and I could
try it again and again in the future. And then I have the sculpt as well. I think I did this right before sleeping. I was pretty unhappy with it and I just called it a day and jumped to day 4. This is the first sculpt that I did in day 4. Things start getting interesting from here on onwards. Basically, I started getting used to the tools in Zbrush, the basic ones. So I started doing things a bit more complex, like full characters, and just to see how it goes. So this character, I didn't use any reference. In fact, I really had no idea what I was doing. I was just basically sculpting and seeing what I get and just designing the character as I move along. I never did end up finishing her, but I do have a few versions of her that I'm going to show you right now. Here I added the sword just to quickly see how sculpting objects work in Zbrush, you know, instead of organic characters or organic stuff. I did a really quick one. I didn't really get too much into hard surface sculpting, to be honest, which I'd like to get into just to see how it works. I also wanted to continue designing her and try to see what kind of character she'll be, but I decided not to at the end because, again, I'm trying to learn Zbrush here, not designing characters at this point. So I thought, you know, this is something I'll leave for later on. Here I tried to pose her in Zbrush. I did a really quick one. I didn't really try to find her after posing her. As you can see over here, you know, you can see from the hands and everything. But the point here was to kind of see how posing works in ZBrush and if it would be interesting to use. Here's the second sculpt that I did in day 4. This is really fun. I did it from a sphere without reference and without symmetry. So I basically started with the sphere and removed the symmetry and just sculpted this. I didn't spend a lot of time. I didn't want to refine her or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to test sculpting without symmetry right from the start, which turned out to be a fun experience, and hopefully I'll be doing more of that. Here's the third sculpt that I did in day 4, and the reason I did a skull again was to compare the speed difference between day 4 and day 3. Now I wasn't able to show you the skull that I did in day 3, as I mentioned, I forgot to save it, but I think that one took me around an hour. Again, it's a big estimation because I did not really put a stopwatch or anything. I remember it being around an hour, and this one I think was around between 15 and 20 minutes, which is considerably faster, just because I got used to the tools a bit more. Because, you know, in ZBrush I'm fidgeting all the time, looking for tools, looking for stuff, forgetting how to navigate, which makes the process a lot slower than it should be. But anyways, it turned out to be cool. I was pretty happy with it, and on to day 5. Starting off with the first sculpt of day 5, I sculpted a dragon to warm up. I don't really do a lot of creatures, so I'm not really aware or familiar with the anatomy of creatures, but it turned out to look okay, not bad, and it's a nice warm-up. I might do more creatures in the future, who knows. It was really fun. But anyways, I did record the sculpting for this character, so I know it took me 58 minutes to sculpt, and if we have time, I'll show it in this video. Alright, moving on to the next one. Here's the second character that I did in day 5. This is from an artist that I found on Pinterest. Now I'm a bit confused because in Pinterest it's really hard to figure out who's posting stuff, but I think it's from Chabe Escalante, and the actual original character design is by Zach Retz. Anyways, I'll post a photo of the reference on the screen. So she took me 2 hours and 25 minutes. I basically just took everything I learned in the first 4 days and kind of applied it here to do a semi-character. So some parts of it without symmetry. I also did the hair a bit more refined than I did, I think, on the 3rd day on one of the characters. So yeah, she turned out to be really cool, and if there's time, I'll show you a time lapse of her as well in this video. Here's a third sculpt of day 5. This is a quick anatomy study of the arm. I really enjoy these, you know, once you start getting the hang of anatomy, the names of the muscles, the shapes and all of that, then doing studies or quick studies of them is actually a very fun way to sculpt, and it helps, you know, refresh your memory of the anatomy, improve your memory and all of that. So yeah, pretty cool. Turns out we do have some time to show the time lapse of the dragon and the girl while I talk about how I learned fast and, you know, point out some important information about everything that I've learned and what I wanted to transmit to you guys. So here's the thing. The reason I learned fast how to sculpt in ZBrush, it's a few reasons actually. It's not just one thing. First of all, I've been sculpting in Blender for a while. So, you know, the process of sculpting isn't that different per se. So when I want to find something, how to sculpt in a certain way or how to do something specific, I kind of know what I need to do. I just need to figure out how to do it in the program. So either I'll just Google that part or I'll just look around in the program and try to figure it out myself. The second thing, which is 100 times more important, and I've said that so many times in the past, the program does not matter as much as you might think. whatever program you're using, if you have the right knowledge of, for example, anatomy, shape language, you have a lot of experience in creating characters, drawing, and you have all of that knowledge that you've acquired throughout the years, if you're going to a new program, then you're going to transfer that knowledge. And the things you create depends on that a lot more than it depends on what program you're using. So I get that question a lot, should I use Zbrush? Should I use Blender? Should I use 3ds Max? Whatever. And I said it before and I'll say it again. It doesn't really matter, because what you're gonna spend most of your time on to actually improve is not really which program you're gonna use or the tools in the program, but you're gonna spend it on different stuff, like again, anatomy, lighting, that kind of stuff. Also, obviously, it does depend on what kind of job you're looking for specifically. But again, when an employer is looking for an artist, they're probably not gonna focus that much on what program you're using. If they're gonna ask or require you to use Zbrush when you're using Blender, then at that point, learn Zbrush before getting the job or before looking. Or they might even just tell you need to learn the program, but we're interested in your artistic side of things, in your art, in all the knowledge you acquired. So, and also, as you can see in the video, learning a program doesn't necessarily have to take a lot of time. Generally, actually takes a lot less than people think to learn a program. You just need to focus on learning that program, throughout the time you're gonna learn it. So for example, in the 5 days I was learning Zbrush, I knew what I wanted to learn. It was Zbrush, the tool, and not art in general. So I wouldn't focus on the artistic side of things, I'd focus on the tools of Zbrush. My objective was very clear from the start, so my approach was smarter, and I was able to spend the right amount of time to learn what I learned today. And also, obviously, I focused on a very small part of Zbrush instead of just overcomplicating things with all of the tools right away and just getting lost in the program. I focused on some important stuff and start getting used to these stuff first, and then with time, next week I'll probably learn a bit more or different things, and that's how I'll progress fast. So anyways, hopefully this video was useful for you guys and taught you a lot of stuff. If you enjoyed it, do let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you'd like more Zbrush content, because I am enjoying using the program, I can create more content in relation to Zbrush. But I'll say it again, the focus of the channel was never the program I'm using, let it be Blender, Zbrush, or anything else. It's really different stuff, as you've seen on my channel, stuff like art advice, stuff like, general knowledge, maybe stuff like anatomy or character design or that kind of stuff, instead of really the program itself. But I do cover some tutorials from time to time, things like basics of how to use a program and some tips and tricks. Alright, so if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for more fun and educational art videos. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you get notified every time I post something, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more awesome character sculpts and art related videos. You can also check out my store for full courses on character sculpting, texturing, materials, brushes, and more. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, then you will definitely enjoy the next one.